Today's video on career strategies for people with too many interests. Let's check it out.
You know what's funny? Most people spend their whole lives trying to figure out what they're passionate about. They're searching, soul searching, taking personality tests, asking themselves, what's my purpose? And then there's you. You don't have that problem. Your problem is the complete opposite. You're interested in everything. You want to learn guitar and start a podcast and get into digital marketing and maybe learn to code, and you've been thinking about that photography course. And what about starting that blog you've been planning for 2 years? Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it? People call it being a multi-potentialite or a scanner or a renaissance person, and they make it sound cool and special. But let's be real for a second. Most of the time, it just feels like you're scattered. Like you're standing at a buffet with 100 dishes and you're trying to eat everything at once and you end up tasting nothing properly. I've been there. I've started so many things I was passionate about. I've got half-finished courses. I have personally tried machine learning, web development, graphic designing, e-commerce, digital.
See, the thing with what he's talking about, I completely understand this because it's with the topic I'm going to talk about with resources. When people have a lot of things to do on their plate, especially with doom scrolling and like constant overwhelm of information, very hard for them to focus directly on one thing at a time and especially get better at those things. Even like if you're a self-starter and you have all those resources available to you, but there's just no structure involved.
And many failed YouTube channels. At one point, I was convinced I was just lazy or broken or something. But here's what I figured
Yeah,
out,
you can feel
and this is
very
probably going to
lazy.
save you years of frustration. You don't have a passion problem, you have a strategy problem. The real issue nobody talks about. See, the world is designed for specialists. The whole system, school, careers, success stories, they're all built around people who pick one thing and
If you notice what he was just talking about, they're all systems or infrastructures that are already in place. And so when we get all this flux of information and resources online now that no one actually knows how to handle, especially managed in the human brain, that's when we start getting problems because there's just too much information out there. And it's about what we actually want to focus on and use our time, money, energy, resources too. And that's what I mean by live life with intention, because you have situations like this where you tend to feel lazy or you feel like you're not doing enough in your life. But you actually just need to focus one by one on what you actually want to do in your life and what goals that you have set for you.
go deep. Be a doctor, be a lawyer, be a software
Those
engineer.
take a lot of
Pick your
time too.
lane, stay in it, become the best. That works great if you're wired that way. But what if
You know what's funny with that is they take a lot of time, and I realized that AI, especially the boom of AI, is really replacing a lot of that time with information that we already have as a universal database. And so now it starts to question, like, is even investing that many years, like being a doctor or lawyer, spending 8 to 12 years in school for education, like, is that even worth it anymore? Especially with people making money on OnlyFans and you being a YouTuber or content creator, and it's much easier to do that.
you're someone with multiple interests? The system makes you feel like you're doing it wrong, like you need to just pick something and stick with it. And so you try, you pick something, let's say graphic design. You go hard for 3 months. You're learning Photoshop, watching tutorials, doing practice projects. You're feeling good. Then you get curious about something else. Maybe it's video editing or writing or investing, and that new thing feels exciting and fresh, and the graphic design starts feeling like a chore. So you switch and the cycle repeats. Now pay close attention to this though. The problem isn't that you have too many interests. The problem is you're treating them all like they're supposed to become your career. And that's the trap. You think every interest needs to turn into something big. Every hobby.
I completely know what he's talking about for career driven things. Like that should tie to your purpose, like what achievements you want to reach, what goals that you have set for yourself. That's purpose in your life and that's direction driven. And then there's fulfillment, which actually makes up your hobbies, things that you like to do without using your brain functions as much. And that could be like listening to music, going to the shower, walking outside, exercising, playing a sport. Like while you can use some brain activity, those are ways that you can alleviate your focus mode. You don't have to constantly be thinking about stuff. Overall, fulfillment is so you don't have to constantly be activating your brain to be focusing on every single thing and analyzing everything. That should be linked towards your purpose driven mindset. And so once you have the distinction between the two, and like what he's saying, I completely agree. You have to separate the interest and hobbies into a more fulfillment sort of style. Like you don't have to make it some sort of I need to make money out of this or I need to build a career out of this or else there's no point to doing it.
needs to be monetized. Every skill needs to become your identity. And when you can't commit to one thing 100%, you feel like a failure. But there's a different way to look at this. All right, I will share the strategy. It's stupid simple, but it works. Step one, stop trying to pick one thing. I know, everyone's telling you the opposite. Find
You know what's funny actually? When I realized that's actually a very good point. Like just pick everything that like actually piques your interest because when you start trying a lot of different things, a lot of the times passion can drive you farther than you ever expected. Like if you were passionate about YouTube or you feel like you had a greater purpose in doing something, it comes natural to you and something that you want to do, then I could definitely agree. Like just try out everything, especially when you're younger, you have way more leverage. Try everything that you can and whatever works for you, whatever you like, dislike, try to record those things and reflect on those things, and you can actually find improvement in the future.
your niche. Focus is everything. But listen, you've tried that, right? How'd that
I'm
work
like, wow,
out?
that
You're
worked.
fighting your nature. It's like telling a dog not to chase squirrels. You can train it, sure, but it's going against instinct. Instead, accept that you're someone with multiple interests. That's not a bug, and think of it as a feature. The goal isn't to kill off your other interests. The
You know, I am jealous of people who are just purpose driven onto one thing and they can just stay at that one thing their whole life. Like, that's actually crazy to me. Like, even video games, sometimes it's like I've fallen out of video games and it's not as enjoyable. And I start finding different interests. But for the people who can just nonstop play League of Legends 12 hours a day, that's mentally numbing.
goal is to organize them in a way that actually moves your life forward. Step 2. Separate your interests into 3 categories. Grab a piece of paper. Seriously, do this. List out all the things you're interested in or want to learn. Everything. Don't filter yourself. Now put them into 3 buckets. Bucket 1, the money maker. This is the one skill or interest that has the most realistic potential to pay your bills in the next 1 to 3 years. Notice I didn't say your passion. I didn't say the thing you love most. I said the thing that can make money. This might be something you're already decent
Yeah, this is something everyone must have because that's just a harsh reality of it all. Like, we should find something first that's sustainable for us, making us money so that we can survive. And once we can survive in that bare minimum, we can try to push for passions that we actually enjoy. But yeah, obviously, like if you can find something that's you're passionate about, that also makes a lot of money. It's just feeding two birds with one stone.
at. Maybe it's writing, coding, video editing, or sales or marketing. Pick the one that checks these boxes. You're already somewhat good at it. There's actual demand for it. You don't hate it. That's your anchor, the thing you're going to prioritize above everything else for the next year or two. Bucket 2, the soul stuff. These are the things you do purely because they make you feel alive. Maybe it's painting, maybe it's hiking or cooking or reading philosophy.
See, this is similar to what I was just talking about. The first one is your purpose, and it kind of is career driven, which is why, like, over the test of time, like, for us, if you were just sitting at home, like, just playing video games or you're unemployed, like, you might have that longing for purpose, and or maybe you don't actually. Maybe you do enjoy being unemployed, but if I were to ever lose my job, I would feel like this emptiness inside. Like, I kind of feel this passion or joy in going to work at times because there's this sort of purpose. Like there's some meaning to my life. And then the fulfillment part is what he's talking about right now, where you can just go out and do something and it starts sparking that creativity in your mind that's never disappeared.
What is important here is that you are not trying to monetize these. These are not side hustles. These are the things that keep you sane. These are your hobbies, and hobbies are allowed to just be hobbies. I know the internet tells you to turn your passion into profit, but honestly, that's how you ruin the things you love. Let some things
That's a
just be for
fact.
you. Bucket 3, the curiosity shelf. Everything else goes here. All those random interests you want to explore someday. Learning Japanese, getting into astronomy, studying stoicism, whatever. These stay on the shelf. You're
Not
not saying
stoicism, bro.
never, you're saying not now. And that's okay. They'll still be there when you have more time and mental space. Step 3, go all in on bucket 1. This is where most people with multiple interests mess up.
See, he just labeled three priority buckets for your life, and actually, I 100% agree. Like that priority bucket list, like you need to make money first, and then things that don't require you to make money, Then you start investing that money you made if you had any extra. Hopefully you're not living paycheck to paycheck, but you start investing into the hobbies that you actually enjoy doing, and that gives your life fulfilling memories. And then the curiosity things are things that you can touch up on if you ever do have time after those first two buckets.
They try to give equal attention to everything. They split their time 50-50-50. Yeah, I know the math doesn't work. That's exactly the problem. You can't build momentum that way. You can't get good at anything that way. So, what I want you to do is for the next
You know what he's trying to talk about? The reason why you feel burnt out if you do too much of one over the other is because, or you either feel too burnt out or you feel too lazy. And that's just really because your brain works in two different ways and it activates in two different ways with the focus and diffuse mode mindset. And so, if you constantly are focused on analyzing everything and thinking everything is about money, everything is purpose driven, then you will never find that fulfilling aspect of life where you can just sit down, do nothing, and be lazy and unproductive, and actually find that there's some joy in life from that. Obviously, vice versa. If you are pushing for fulfillment too much without having the resources to back it up, then you're just going to be left in a very depressing situation.
6 to 12 months, your bucket one skill gets 80% of your productive energy, maybe more. That doesn't mean you work on it 80% of your waking hours. It means that when you sit down to actually work on building your future, that's where your focus goes. Let's say you have 2 hours a day for productive work. Give 90 minutes to your moneymaker skill. Take courses, do projects, build a portfolio, network with people in that field. Treat it like it matters because it does. This is the thing that's going to give you freedom. Once you're making decent money from this skill, whether it's freelancing, a job, or a small business, you buy yourself options. You buy yourself
You know, the only practical step missing here is he's not actually providing any resources. It's just like it's the same as those red pill content creators where it's just like go to the gym, work out, look better, look smacks. And giving this blanket advice, I understand like everyone knows what they have to be doing. Like if they fully figure it out themselves or like look up on YouTube for people that actually like show you career advice or LinkedIn strategies, networking events. I understand that, but when you like this video is very well made, but I would definitely recommend like having some resources. I mean, that's just me personally. I There should always be like a practical step. Like what can someone a viewer watching this video like what resources can they actually take from this?
time to explore other things later. Step 4, schedule your bucket 2, stuff like appointments. Now, our soul stuff, the things that make life worth living, you don't abandon those, but you also don't let them eat up all your productive time. Put them in your calendar, literally. Sunday morning journaling and Wednesday evening painting. Friday night reading. Treat
Journaling,
these like
journaling every
non-negotiables, but
day.
also recognize what they are. They're recovery. They're the things that keep you from burning out on your main focus. And you know what's the beautiful part? When you stop pressuring these activities to become something bigger, you actually enjoy them more. You read books because it feels good, not because you're trying to become some motivational speaker or guru, though they are not bad. Step 5, revisit and rotate. Here's where it gets interesting.
This video
You're
is very
not locked
insightful
into this
though, for
forever.
sure.
This isn't a prison sentence. Once you've built some real momentum with your bucket one skill, once you're making money, once you've got some stability, you can reassess. Maybe in a year you decide to shift focus. Maybe your moneymaker becomes something you can do in less time, and you pull something off the curiosity shelf into bucket one. Maybe you combine two interests in a way that creates something new. The point is, you're not trying to do everything at once anymore. You're being strategic. You're building in sequence, not in chaos. So, why this actually work? Let me tell you what happens when you do this. First,
It's funny that his framework is really only those three buckets. It's very simple but effective. I would say very effective.
you stop feeling guilty all the time. You stop beating yourself up for not focusing because you are focusing just on one main thing while keeping space for the rest. Second, you actually start getting good at something. When you give one skill 80% of your attention for 6 months, you make real progress. You go from interested in marketing to I can run Facebook ads that actually convert. That's the difference between dabbling and developing expertise. Third, you build confidence. Every little win in your main area gives you proof that you're not just a scattered mess. You're someone who can commit and deliver.
You know what's great about these buckets too is that with your career and purpose driven mindset, like when you actually reach your achievements and goals that you actually set out for yourself in terms of money making, that actually is in its own way some sort of fulfillment. And like it actually brings you joy in a different way. And so if you can balance that, like you're constantly doing something better, you're constantly proud of yourself at your job, and then you also find some new skill that you're learning that you're actually getting better at and being proud of doing that, like public speaking, for example, then there are just so many different avenues in life that you can find joy in that obviously doom scrolling, gooning, like all these things that are infesting our society right now, it's just gonna wash away.
Liver, like that confidence bleeds into everything else. And fourth, this is the big one, you create options for yourself. Money gives you options,
Exactly,
skills
yeah.
give you options. Once you've got those, you can start playing with your other interests from a position of strength, not in desperation, like, oh, that guru said there's more
You're
money
just
in this or
leveraging your
that
money to do
field.
things that you
Now
want to do.
listen closely, because this is something no one tells you. I'm going to level with you. If you try to chase every interest equally, you're going to be 35 years old, still figuring things out, still jumping from thing to thing, still broke, still frustrated. I'm not saying that
See, that's having all the resources in the world with no direction. Like, that's actually what it is. Like, you have so much time, money, energy into doing things, but you don't actually know where to start, then all of that is meaningless.
to be mean. I'm saying it because I've watched it happen. Hell, I almost let it happen to me. The people you admire who seem to do everything, the ones with multiple businesses and hobbies and skills, they didn't start that way. They built one thing first. They got good at one thing. They made money from one thing. Then they expanded. So now you're not behind or broken, but you do need to make a choice about what gets your focus right now. So here's what you're going to do after this video. Grab that piece of paper, make those 3 buckets, be honest with yourself about what goes where. Pick your bucket 1, the thing that's going to be your main focus for the next 6 to 12 months, not forever, just for now. Then set up your week, block out time for your moneymaker, schedule your soul stuff, let everything else rest on the shelf. And then, this is the hardest part, actually stick to it, not forever, just for this week, then next week, then the week after that. You don't need to have it all figured out, you
Yeah,
just need to stop
consistency
trying
is
to do
usually the
everything
hardest
at
part.
once. Your interests aren't going anywhere, they'll be there.
One question I'll raise for you guys, honestly, is if you were to be able to master any skill right now, what would it be? And my follow up question is if you haven't mastered that skill yet or gotten at least good at it, then what is holding you back from doing so? If it's something like resources, then you have to obviously build up your resources and then leverage it over like the money making he was mentioning and then find direct like you already have the direction but you don't have the resources. That's completely fine because you can always build up your resources. But if you have a lot of resources but no direction, then figure out like what is actually stopping you. What is holding you back from mastering your skill because that's something that everyone thinks of. Everyone wants to master a skill. Everyone wants to be good at something. And what is that something to you is my question. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Peace. If you want a place to reflect, ask questions, share ideas, or talk with people who are trying to live their life intentionally, you can join my Discord server in the description below.